Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I'm seeing the participants are logging in. The numbers are coming up. Hola todos. Welcome, everybody. It is 9:02 a.m. Eastern North American time. My name is Jean-François Côté. I'm coming to you from my hometown of Quebec City. It's my honor to have been asked again to be with you with this event. A good thing coming out of the last 2 years is the evolution of the workplace. So about never having another online meeting in SKAL, little note to myself, never say never again. Just like our last AGM a few months ago, the registered delegates are joining myself and the panelists. The panelists will be introduced in a few minutes on the Zoom webinar platform. They will have the possibilities of asking questions via the chat box. We have registered right now about 338 participants. Sadly, some participants shared their exclusive links with other members, which was not supposed to happen. So we have a bit more participants that we're supposed to have. We will address that later. The General Assembly is also live stream on the members' YouTube channel. The connection was sent several times from the emails of SKAL International to all the membership in the last few weeks. Again, the link will be pasted in the chat box. So if any of the registered delegates want to share that YouTube link with any of their members, it will be easy to do this morning. Because we are live streamed through YouTube, members log in the stream will not be able to see the questions. So I will read the questions to the panelists each time we have one. The members on the YouTube can direct their questions to their voting delegates if they have any. I will monitor, of course, the chat on YouTube on my second screen here, and I will try to summarize the comments and questions we have. The team in Torremolinos will be helping me to do that, to make sure that I get all the information out there. The simultaneous translation is available for the delegates at the bottom of your Zoom platform. You have a little button there that looks like a planet, so it's the translation. You will have the Spanish translation. If needed, I will provide the French translation for question or answers in French. There will be no voting today, so the voting procedure will be later and will be explained later during this event. It is now my great pleasure to start this meeting by introducing International President, Madame Berchin-Turcan.
Great start. Thank you very much, Jean-François. Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome delegates on Zoom, our former international past presidents who are with us today on the Zoom, as well as on the YouTube. All club presidents, former presidents, voting delegates, and observers, members on YouTube. Welcome to the SKAL International Extraordinary General Assembly. I would like to advise all that while I preside over the meeting, the moderator will control the timing and smooth running of the proceedings. Please allow me to introduce the members of the Executive Board. In addition to myself as your World President for 2022, I'd like to introduce our Senior Vice President, Juan Ignacio Steta from Mexico. Interim Vice President Hülya Aslantaş from Turkey.
Greetings.
Directors Maria Ila Kaskinen from Finland, Anit Cardenas from Panama, and Denise Crafton from Australia. Our International Council, SKAL Council President Julie DeBali Scott, and our CEO Daniela Otero.
Great to phone in Spain, thank you.
Now, officially, I would like to declare the Extraordinary General Assembly open, and I would like to ask Senior Auditor Rafael Milan to confirm the quorum.
Yes, good morning, everyone. The total clubs created to vote is 303. The quorum is 1/3 plus one of the total number of accredited clubs, which is 102. I confirm right now, checking with the people that there's a quorum for the meeting.
Thank you very much, Auditor Rafael Milan. Today we have the auditors, Rafael Milan and Junior Auditor Carlos Banks with us attending the meeting. The proposed changes to the statutes were presented in advance to the club officers via email. In addition to the emails, additional Zoom meetings have been organized with all area committees and national committees being invited to join. In total, 6 Zoom calls have been scheduled and conducted. According to the Spanish law, we are obligated to review the proposed statutes at the General Assembly, and that is why we are here today online at the Zoom meeting. The proposed statutes amendments will be discussed today at the Extraordinary General Assembly and will be voted after the Extraordinary General Assembly closing via election body. The ballots will be sent out after the meeting to the delegates, and delegates will have 36 hours to vote. This information will be repeated at the end of the meeting as well. I would like to inform you that I have appointed international past residents Bill Rayum, Laban Whitman, and Matanya He to act as scrutineers to overview the electronic voting procedure together with the auditors Rafael Milan and Carlos Banks. The results will be announced at the conclusion of the voting period. Now, I would like to introduce you to the governance plan and give you the overview of the plan. Following my introduction, I will open the floor for questions. After the questions and answers, I will invite Vice President Juan Stetta to present the proposed statutes amendments one by one. Before
Madam
I start,
President, sorry, I don't want to cut you, but I just want to make sure I'm getting comments that the YouTube hasn't started yet. I know there's a delay between YouTube and the live Zoom platform, but I don't think it's
yeah, there is a
8 minutes.
delay, but I'm having problems to connect for some reason. Okay, I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm doing that at the moment. I have been trying
Okay.
all this time.
Okay, thank you. Just another comment. Some people are having issues logging in. We did have that issue before. And again, the Zoom platform has been out there for millions of meetings. The issue is usually that you logged in or you sent your information with a wrong email. So if that happened, of course, you cannot log in. So make sure that information was precise when you send the information out. Sorry, Madam President, back to you.
no, thank you very much. Before I start my PowerPoint presentation, I would like to say a few words about today and the change we are discussing. When the word change is introduced and spoken about it, it's always accompanied with some fear, panic of the unknown, thoughts of if it will never work this way or it has never worked in the past. So now, what if our thought pattern changes? That when we hear the word change, feelings of excitement, positivity, and being part of the team that is the change fills our minds. We could compare ourselves to the big change makers in the past in the history, like the engineers that invented the jet engine aircraft, Elon Musk and the electric car, Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, invention of the email instead of the fax machine. Do we question these disruptors, change agents now? No, we enjoy the change they implemented, but I'm sure so many people questioned them before the launch. So now let us enter into today's discussion and later voting with the same excitement, zeal, positivity, and forward thinking as these inventors. Let us be the leaders who change the future of our beloved organization. It's a deep choice that we will influence our future. Let us not only think out of the box, but let us get out of the box. Now, if you allow me, I'm going to start sharing my screen. I do have a PowerPoint presentation that will take about 20 to 25 minutes. And as I mentioned before, after my presentation, I will be taking the questions.
Burshin, I'm not able to log in the YouTube account. I can start sharing your PowerPoint presentation, but at the same time, I have to continue working on trying to connect to YouTube, okay?
Yeah, I will be sharing my presentation,
okay.
So no worries about that. Yes,
all right.
Thank you,
Sorry
Esther.
to interrupt you. Bye.
Madam President, if we could maybe just wait a couple of minutes. There are over 100 people waiting on the YouTube to have this information.
Absolutely.
If we maybe just wait a couple of minutes to make sure that our membership, and I just texted in the YouTube saying we're coming on live soon, please wait for us. So.
No problem. I did see a message now, webinar is now streaming live on YouTube.
Yeah, it's just, there will be 20 seconds behind. So now it's working. Sorry about that.
Perfect. Jean-Francois, are we good to go?
Yes, let's go.
Perfect. Okay. Well, Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to all who are on YouTube. We did have a little bit of a delay in connecting to our live stream on YouTube. I would like to welcome all of our observers who are with us today for the SKAL International Extraordinary General Assembly. We did the initial introductions. We do have a quorum. Now I will be giving the overview of the proposed governance plan presented by the Governance Committee and the Statutes Committee. Following my presentation, I will be opening the floor for questions and answers, and we will be trying to answer any questions that you have. So before I start my presentation, I would like to remind all of our colleagues who are today with us on the Zoom, who will, the delegates who will be submitting questions, comments, and all of our colleagues on the Zoom. I'd like to remind you on the SKAL International Statutes, Article 2, Vision, Mission, Objectives, Principles, and Structures, where SKAL principles are listed. There are two items that I would like to point out, and I would like to have everyone's attention on these two important principles that I would like everyone to adhere today when making any comments or asking questions. Principle number one is friendship. SKALigs are persons of recognized honesty, integrity, who identify with the SKAL values. This permits them to find and give within SKAL the spirit of friendship and unity, which makes this association so special. Number four, non-discriminatory. The association shall not allow any social, political, labor union, religious, race, sex, or age discrimination to be a part of SKAL club life. Questions that may endanger the spirit of friendship or unity, political, union, or religious questions should be carefully avoided. Now, we have been having the talk of change.
I'm sorry to have to cut you again, Madam President. Esther, YouTube is still not going online. It's been more than 20 seconds. Are we good to go, or should we just break another little 30 seconds to let you put this online?
It has been online. I have seen. I can see it on YouTube. I'm watching the two things over here and also on YouTube. YouTube is live.
Yeah, it might be the case that some have a different, pace of live stream, connection. So they might be receiving the information a little bit delayed, more than 20 seconds, maybe. Could that be the case?
Personally, I don't have it, so I hope people out there do have it. So yes, continue, Madam President.
Okay, perfect. So we've been talking about change for years, and now today we are discussing the change and the actions to be taken towards the change. So where does the need for change come? What are the facts that we have been discussing, we have been experiencing in the past 10 to 15 years? Well, it's a fact that change has been the talk for the past 10, 15 years. And the fact on this is it's available for everyone to review on the SKAL International website, the International Council minutes. The meeting minutes, if you look into them for the past 12 years, they talk about change. They talk about the need for change. And this is why we're talking about change today. Governance crisis has been an issue for the past 3 to 4 years in the organization. And we need to understand that this is something that needs to be clarified. And that is why we are talking about change. And there's been danger bells for Amical with the governance crisis that has been experienced. This has been surfacing within the organization. Lack of diversity and inclusiveness and fair representation at the top of the organization. Disruption and restructuring the travel and tourism industry after COVID. And decline trajectory in general membership for the past 15 years. An aging organization with lack of meeting new generations' expectations. So all these have been the factors that have been expressed and that has been the talks in the past 10 to 15 years that has pushed us this year to sit down and find a solution. How can we put the change into motion? Now, from talks to walks, so the act on accomplishing the change. So if you all will remember, the conversations about change has started in 2021. There has been a governance committee established by former past president, former international president, Bill Reume. Before the annual General Assembly and elections, I have announced that if I get elected, there will be 3 goals, and one of them will be the restructure of the governance. So that is why 2022 has been declared to be the year of transformation. And this has been declared in November 2021. In January 1st, when we took office, so we have formed committees. There were 8 committees formed, and 2 of these committees were the Governance Committee and the Statutes and Bylaws Committee. The committees that were formed have been open to all for participation. I'd like to emphasize this. It's been open to all for participation. Anyone in any level who wanted to participate in the committee to serve an idea, to present an idea, was invited, was welcome to join. There were some members who were invited, decided not to join, but the call was out there for everyone. It was an open call. And this call remained until end of January. February 1st, the committees took off. They started their work. As you all know, Governance Committee was on a mandate, as well as the Statutes and Bylaws Committee. Why is the mandate? Because we said 2022 is going to be the year of action. So we put them onto work and asked them to complete their work by end of April, early May, and they have fulfilled this. So to act on change requests for decades, governance and statutes committees, they work like a think tank. They had about 40 SKALs, and there were 6 international past presidents, 12 international counselors, current area committee and national committee presidents, as well as former international council presidents, joined these 2 committees. They worked hard. They worked over 100 hours in total. These are all volunteers. And the Governance Committee presented their unanimously approved proposal, which then the Statutes Committee put this into implementation. And today we are going to discuss the proposal that is put into motion for us to be able to implement the changes that are proposed. Now, if we look into the governance plan at a glance, so this proposal is not the current executive board's plan. I'd like to emphasize that this is not the president's proposal. This is not the executive board's proposal or plan. This is the plan that has been put together by the Governance Committee as well as the Statutes and Bylaws Committee. The executive board reviewed it and unanimously approved the items and passed it along to Statutes Committee, where they have put all the content of the plan into the proposed statutes amendments that we're going to vote today. There is no my work, your work race here. This is a joint work. We are all in the same boat. I'd like to remind everyone, we all represent SKAL as one, just like the chain we wear. This is a joint plan proposed and presented to membership to decide for the future of our organization. The presidents of the clubs today, after reviewing the presentation and the entire month we had our meetings, they will make the decision as they hold the future in their hands of this organization. If it passes, it will not be the committee members' achievement only, but it will be the achievement of the club presidents. So it will be an achievement of all, and the credit will go to all. Now, the key points on the governance plan I'd like to go over is the purpose is to reorganize, modernize leadership on the international level to ensure representation of all areas of the SKAL world. So the plan is offering a better representation to better serve membership, control finances, and ensure the most qualified members to serve. Current executive committee and International SKAL Council will be reorganized into one governing body. The philosophy of governance is to take a bottom-up approach and allow all countries in the SKAL world to have a real voice and ability to hold an international office. Now, the executive board of directors is what is proposed. It will consist of 15 members, the president, vice president, who will be also named as president-elect, because the vice president will be automatically becoming the president in the following year. 11 directors, where finance director is elected by executive committee board from the directors. Deputy vice president is the person with second highest votes in vice president election and will be one of the directors. Immediate past president and secretary general will be also members of the board, but they will have no votes. Details on each position will be explained by Vice President Juan Stetta under statutes amendments. This is the proposed organizational structure. If we want to see the big picture, how the new organizational structure will look. As you can see, the bottom-up structure is followed, and there is no change at the table for the clubs. The clubs will continue to operate as they are. National committees will continue to operate as they are. Area committees will continue to operate as they are. There are no changes proposed or imposed for any of the main structure of SKAL International. The proposal is for the governance, for the top leadership. So in between the area committees and the board, there will be also committees established. I will give a little bit more information about that in a few minutes. And they will be headed up by regional directors appointed by the executive, the chair of the committee, and they will be selected from each region to assist. So this will give a chance to identify future leaders. As you can see then, the top structure will be the president, vice president, regional directors, and immediate past president and secretary general.
Madam President, I'm sorry again. I'm getting the call, and we had to change the YouTube link. Now YouTube works, but it's a new link. So
we can go ahead and just type. We can have Esther type the new link here, and everyone can share with their club representatives, observers who are watching the YouTube. Would that be a good idea, Jean-François?
I just want to understand that all the participants logged in. So I've been pasting the new YouTube link, and actually SKAL International just did it in the chat box we have here amongst ourselves, participants and panelists. So you need to distribute that link to everybody around your countries and regions to make sure that they link into this new YouTube channel. So please do, because some members are still logging in the old link. So maybe just pause a couple of minutes, Madam President, so we make sure that, because people do really want to see your presentation. That's what I'm reading here. So
right, yeah.
If we could actually...
and yeah, while we wait, just to advise everyone, this presentation will be available, will be shared with everyone who is present here and the entire membership after today's meeting. That's what we're going to do. And the recording of this meeting will also be available for all. So those who are missing it on YouTube or who could not make the time, we do have colleagues, due to time difference, are not able to be up and watching this. So that is why we have the recording, and we will be sharing it with everyone following this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, and feel free to interrupt me. So, so we did have a view of the organization chart and the positions. Now, what is new with this new plan is there will be a deputy system. So there is installation of a deputy system. Person coming in second in regional elections will serve as a deputy for that region and will serve on one of the committees, possibly as a core chairman. So all remaining candidates from each region who run for director will automatically be eligible to be appointed as a member of a committee by the board based on their skills. Again, details will be explained by Juan Steda under statutes amendments. The election process, again, I'm going to give an overview and Vice President Juan Steda will give more details. The elections for directors, vice president, auditor, and member d'honneur will be facilitated by SKAL International in each region for consistency by 2 weeks prior to the AGA. The ballots will be specified to each region to be voted only by the countries within that region. Regions with only one country will appoint minimum 2 candidates in order to have the deputy also designated. And in case there is an area committee compromising of several regions, and if the regions within that area committee so wish, they may decide to elect their candidates for director at the area level. Now, candidates' nominations and election process is recommended to start 60 days prior to the AGA date. Now, here's the point I'd like to make it clear. There were questions asked. What is the rush? Why are we pushing for this? There's no push here. We are just executing and trying to respect what the plan is proposing. There is a plan on the table, and this plan says for the election process, and if we want this plan to move forward, the election process has to start 60 days prior to the AGA date. So our next AGA is in October. So that is why this date for the Extraordinary General Assembly is picked, because we want to make sure that if this passes, this plan will be implementable. So as we said, there's been talks for years, and the final execution has never been implemented, or a plan has been proposed to be executed. Now we have a plan, and we want to move forward and execute it because it's a great plan. I do agree with the plan. And that is why we are trying to comply with what the plan is proposing here. That is why this date is picked. It's not picked to push anything. It is picked systematically. If you calculate yourself 6 days back, 60 days from the upcoming annual General Assembly, this is the date that we are landing. Candidates forums will be facilitated by SKAL International in each region. So which means, there will be, once the candidates are identified, there will be forums, because, this plan is proposing to have higher skilled leadership running for elections. So there will be, different specified criteria to run for the board of SKAL International, and this will be explained by Vice President Juan Steda. Elections will be held virtually using Election Buddy or similar, and voting will be held for a minimum 48 hours, latest 2 weeks prior to the World Congress. Every assigned delegate will cast his club's vote for director among candidates from his region only, and for vice president, auditor, and member d'honneur. Clubs with 66 or more members will have the second vote. So there is no change with the club structure, as I mentioned earlier. Election results will be announced during the AGA of the SKAL World Congress, and board will serve from January 1st through December 31st of each year. And vice president cannot represent a region that had a SKAL International president in the past 3 years. Now, how will be the transition? So if we move forward, there will be a transition, of course, and this needs to be in the best possible and smooth way. So what is proposed in this plan is, in the transition year, first year, 6 directors will be elected for 1 year and 7 for 2 years terms to start the rotation. 4 of the 6 directors elected for 1 year will be currently elected directors and International SKAL Council President plus 2 additional. The Statutes and Bylaws Committee asked Canada and United States to volunteer to have their director to be the 2 regions to start the 1 term, and they accepted. Now, first election will allow for current duly elected executive committee members to retain board positions for 1 year for consistency. And then if they are still eligible with less than 4 years already served and wish to remain on the board, they will have to be nominated and run for election in their regions for 1 term only, except the person that is elected vice president, and they can extend for the year of their presidency. Annette Cardenas, Maria Ila Kaskinan, Dennis Crafton, who are our current directors, will be nominated for vice president position, and 1 will be elected by membership to assume that vice president position and thus become president in 2024. Now, therefore, in 2023, Senior Vice President Juan Steta will become president, representing Region 3, Annette Cardenas, Maria Ila Kaskinan, Dennis Crafton, and Julie Dabali-Scott will be continuing representing the regions that they belong to based on their country, which I will show the map in a few minutes. With Julie Dabali-Scott on Region 13 for Africa, as you know, she is International Council President, and the governance committee, she is elected by the International Council members, not the membership. So the governance committee recommended that President of ISC can be elevated to board as a director for 1 year from her region, but then must run to get elected for another term if she wishes to continue to serve. There has been some questions raised on that point because her not being elected by membership. This is a bylaw change, the regions, so this can be open for discussion and correction, and Vice President Juan Steta will explain further on this. Having the current elected executive committee members continue will give stability to the board during the transition period. Election of vice president after the first year, and this is still in the transition year, please keep in mind, board must recommend a minimum of 2 candidates to run for vice presidency from the board. All board members will be eligible to run for the position of vice president unless they are from the region of the current vice president and have served 2 years as director. Elections will be held virtually by SKAL International, giving membership a minimum of 48 hours to vote. Again, further details will be explained by Vice President Juan Steta under statutes amendments. Now, as I mentioned, there will be permanent official committees. As you know, we have started the committees this year and we had great excitement, great engagement by our members, but these were committees that were formed by the president and the executive committee. Now, this governance plan is proposing that these committees become permanent official committees. So this will actually be allowing higher representation and participation from the countries to officially work in these permanent committees. Chairs will be assigned to board members. Co-chairs will be those deputies who achieved the second highest vote in their regional election. So those who run for a director position and those who are in the deputy position, they will be co-chairs serving on these permanent official committees. So they will select committee members from regions around the world. And this will be really a great way to identify new leadership, because this is a way of including membership. It will increase the inclusivity of our members, where they will participate in these committees to serve based on their expertise. This is what we have been experiencing this year, and you all have been seeing the level, how the level of participation has been raised by our members and how satisfying the experience has been for those members who are working in these committees. They have been producing very productive projects, and we will be hearing from them in the second half of the year even more. But with this, plan, they are proposing that these committees become official and the members are officially a part of the 8 committees that are proposed that I'm going to explain. So it will also be a way. Now, there has been a discussion and question about, some of the countries mentioning, well, through International Council, we are achieving the presentation. Well, in the plan, there is only 14 seats, so we're not going to have a seat. So, how is going to be our representation? Well, please keep in mind the International Council has been a committee, an advisory committee. Well, when these official committees are launched, if the plan is accepted, it will allow higher representation from the countries. So let's say Africa has right now 4 representation in the International Council. Well, when these permanent committees are launched, they will have ×8 possibility of having representation working in these official committees. So, imagine the engagement, the level of excitement and the opportunities, you will be able to offer to your members. Now, also, let's talk about what committees they are proposing. It's the governance, including statutes and bylaws, finance, technology, digital transformation, public relations, communications and marketing, sponsorships and special projects, international expansion, membership retention, advocacy, and industry relationships. Other committees can be established at discretion of president and the board. So these are the permanent committees that are recommended to be there, but it will be under president's discretion to add additional committees as needed. Important point I want to mention with the new plan is that the internal auditors will be required. The auditors will be required to review finances and operations quarterly in real time. As you all know, right now, the audit is conducted for the past year, but with this plan, it is proposed that the auditors do a real-time auditing. And the auditors will be elected internationally by the membership. And further details on this will be provided by Juan Stetta under the statute amendments. Now, the meetings, the board will meet in person twice yearly maximum at the World Congress and at mid-year meeting. Well, the mid-year meeting, it is also mentioned that can be held virtually as well, depending on the budget. Board will meet at minimum of 8 virtual meetings a year. This is what is proposed for the meetings. And currently, if you look into the expense structure, currently 7 members of the executive board meet in person 3 times a year, total 24 trips. International SKAL counselors meet in person twice a year for the midterm meeting and World Congress, which is usually 20 to 25 members. New board, 14 members traveling twice a year will be a total of 28 trips. So by combining the Executive Committee and International SKAL Council, eliminating the International SKAL Council travel cost as a separate body, this will save the clubs. Now, when we look into the world map with the regions, what is it proposed here? They are proposing, as mentioned, 13 regions. So the region number 1 is United States. The region number 2 is Canada, Bahamas. Number 3 is Mexico. Number 4 is Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Bolivia, Ecuador, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Venezuela, Uruguay, Tres Fronteras. Region number 5, 6, and 7, they are under Europe. Europe has requested that they would like to appoint their directors. The board of the SKAL Europe should appoint the directors rather than these proposed regions pushing out their own leadership. And during our this was how it came to the executive board when the unanimously approved plan came from the governance committee. And during our meeting in the review, our Europe Engaged director, Maria Kaskinan, recommended that, the regions as recommended should remain as separated due to the similarity of language and culture. It will give a better, and it is more democratic to support the bottom-up approach. And that is why executive board passing on the proposal to statutes committee has made this recommendation, and the statutes committee came up with the proposal, which is in the statutes, allowing area committees to make the decision themselves, whether they want to let their board to decide who will be running as director candidates, or whether there should be a regional diversification, and this will be up to the area committees. They can diversify it and put out their candidates. So this has been clarified and given as an option to area committees. And then region number 8 is Turkey. Region number 9 is India. Region number 10 is Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Chinese Taipei, Israel, Hong Kong, Guam, Japan, South Korea, Macau, Nepal, Thailand, Singapore, Sri Lanka. Region number 11 is Australia. Region number 12 is Indonesia, Malaysia, New Zealand, Philippines, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, Fiji. And region number 13 is Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Mauritius, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Uganda, South Africa. Now, the question is, how did this diversification made? How did they make this regional diversification. What they did is they did a benchmark study, the governance committee, how other international associations are handling if they are operating in multiple countries, in all continents with thousands of members. And they took the benchmark study has been done with associations that have larger numbers than SKAL International has. And based on the fact that SKAL International is a membership organization, there could be two parameters, and we are spread out throughout the world, the membership numbers and the geographical location. So those were the two main components that the governance committee said that they considered when they were deciding on the regions. So please keep that in mind. Yes, as I mentioned, the regions were selected by a geographical area, number of members, pre and post-pandemic, similarities in languages, and clubs showing consistent growth, and rule of thumb, 600 to 650 members per region. So that's how they have been grouped. Now, coming to an end, I try to give you an overview of the plan. The information has been submitted at the beginning of the June, and June 6th. You have received 2 PowerPoint presentations about the plan. You have received the statutes amendments and bylaw amendments. We have conducted Zoom meetings with the area committees, national committees, to answer any prior questions. And today we are reviewing the plan one more time. To the question of, we did not see this coming. My answer is, again, this has been the conversation for years, for the past 12 years, 15 years. And we have announced before the Annual General Assembly 2021 that 2022 will be a year of transformation. It will be a year of action, and that we are going to dig into the issues with the governance, and we are going to find a solution, and we are going to create the platform for an execution. Again, this is not a plan of the president, the executive board. This is a plan of SKALics who came together and prepared it. The least respect we can show is to present it to the membership and ask the decision of the presidents who hold the future in their hands of this organization to decide how they would like this organization to move forward. And that is why we are here and having this conversation. In summary, does the plan answer the call for change? Well, we reviewed the issues in SKAL. Talks of change for over a decade with no action plan. We all agree on that. So what is the solution offered with the plan? There's a joint proposal ready for an implementation. The governance crisis has been the issue in SKAL, and the plan is offering a solution as a deputy system that's solving immediate crises that can arise due to death or resignation. Danger bells for AMICAL. That has been the issue that we've been seeing in the past several years. And the major reason for this has been expressed that during the election times where countries become polarized with vote negotiations. This is a fact. We need to put this out. This plan is removing the polarization due to vote negotiations across continents or during world congresses that has been happening. As you know, in the current structure, the vote has been taking place based on the countries that can send the most delegates to the World Congress. And that has been decisive on identifying who will be going on the executive board of 7 people, 6 people actually, not counting the International Council president as a non-voting member. So 6 elected officers were identified by those countries who can send the most delegation to the World Congresses. With this plan, this is eliminated. So there will be no polarization, which will help us repair the AMICAL in this organization. Lack of diversity. This has been the issue and complaint that there is not enough diversity shown in the leadership of SKAL International. And that is the major question I've been receiving since I took presidency when I go to the forums or take interviews. How well does SKAL International leadership represent diversity within SKAL? because diversity and inclusion is the hot topic nowadays. Does SKAL really show the true colors and cultures represented in the top level of the organization? My answer is no, because 6 people cannot represent 84 nations. So this is a step, this plan is giving a step further to provide more participation, to have a diversity within the top of the organization and the representation. So there is a higher level of equal representation opportunity for different cultures at the top of the organization. This is a solution that this plan is offering. Now, another issue is lack of inclusiveness and fair representation at the top of the organization. Well, fair representation with power to vote rather than to remain as a consulting body is offered as a solution in this plan. So there is a better opportunity for, rather than remaining for majority of the countries just as an advisory committee representation in the International Council, this plan is offering a merge where they will have the power of vote, which means a direct power in the decision making. Another issue is the status quo in leadership in some positions. So the higher engagement and inclusivity, rather exclusivity of membership through official permanent committees with guaranteed continuing relevance is offered as a solution for this issue. So, you know, it has been that the positions have been held, you know, well, the representation of 6 people on the executive committee and in the International SKAL Council, we've been having, you know, 84 nations is represented by officially 35 counselors, but, you know, in the meetings pre-pandemic, there were 14 to 20 countries going to the meetings. So there was not a real inclusion and representation, but with the committees that will be formed, this will give an opportunity for a continuity. Decline trajectory in general membership for past 15 years. Well, the discovery of new leaders and open path to grow and support to build succession plan, this will allow us to invite the new generation to this organization, and it will help with the membership growth. As well as, you know, another issue is the aging of the organization with lack of meeting new generations' expectations. Again, the new plan will offer us, as mentioned, a succession plan, and it will offer a new, modern, diversified, and inclusive structure that will attract the younger generation because that's what they care about. And also a point, an issue is, you know, we had an increased load of SKAL International headquarters staff, you know, in the past years, even with the pandemic, you know, it increased their workload because there are 6 people who are sharing their workload. Imagine if we have 14 people on the executive board sharing the achievement of the goals, then it will put less work on the headquarters staff. So this concludes my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I would like to open the floor. I'm sure there are, I do see some comments listed. I'm going to leave the floor to Jean-Francois to navigate the questions and put the questions on the floor for us to be able to answer them.
Thank you, Madam President. Great presentation. Now, there's been a lot of comments during your presentation in the chat box. It's more of an exchange right now that's going on between the delegates. There hasn't been a lot of questions posted. So I will maybe, if you wish, I could summarize the conversations, because if you ask me to read everything here, we're going to be here for quite a while. But what I see here is a lot of engaged and passionate conversation about SKAL, about the presentation. I could summarize that you could have, if you summarize all the people that are talking, you have a lot of friends from Europe who are chatting about their views on this plan, and they're getting answers from people from all around the world. So it's pretty much what we have here. I would have the delegates, if you wish, maybe not comment too much on somebody else's mentioning hello, hi, hello from somewhere in the world, because that makes the scroll go really, really fast, and I'm having issues following all you guys. I'm getting a lot of comments as well on the YouTube. On the YouTube, the feeling is really positive. If you look to summarize of the comments we have there. Andrew, yes, thank you for saying your kind words to the people of Japan for the assassination of Shinzo Abe. Great call. from now, if you have some comments you want us to actually, or questions you have for the panelists, I would appreciate if you would chat them in the chat box. Those of you who made some comments before, if you want me to address them, if you want me to read them, please make them now, so I will read them. And of course, the people on YouTube will have the chance of hearing your thoughts. So starting now, if all the people that have exchanged, you want to summarize your points and post them now, I will read them. So I'm still getting some comments on the quality of the presentation, on I repeat, please, panelists, there's 261 of you right now who can see the chat box. Remember, the over 100 people that we have on YouTube cannot see these conversations. So if you have a point you want to make and me read it, please do it now. I will not go back in the tens and tens of comments there are, and I will not read them all because they're all part of a conversation. Please, if you have something you want me to read, please post it now. A questions to the panelists or a comment.
Okay, let's give it.
So Martin from Salzburg, kindly explain the democratic approach of how 40% of the global members Europe will be represented.
Kindly explain the democratic approach, how 40% in Europe will be represented. Well, if we go back to the map, let's go here. Let me put that screen here.
Madam President, while you go to the map, let me make a comment. Within the bylaw changes, there is, and President Bertrand mentioned it, but let me reiterate it. It says that in the case there is an area committee comprising of several regions, and if the regions within that area so wish, they may decide to elect their candidates for directors at the area level. So that it's going to add what you're going to comment, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Juan. Well, so the representation, as mentioned, has been done based on the number of the membership. So Europe has about 3,600 members. We need to keep in mind the membership globally is 12,600 members. So I'm not sure I understand the question clearly because this does give Europe a representation based on the membership numbers. However, my personal opinion, I do see certain countries in Europe like Germany, like Switzerland, I think those countries, they do deserve the lead in SKAL Europe, because at the end, we need to understand is we are a membership organization. This organization can exist another 8 decades as long as we attract new members. If we don't, then we are not going to be able to grow and we're going to continue to have our decline. So the discussion here is more, how do we create a more attractive organization for the future generation for us to join? And these numbers, the representations, please keep in mind, these are in the bylaws. So this structure here can change. So today, let's say, United States has 1,500 members. If they drop their membership, below 600 members, then of course, that will be a new map, a new discussion to restructure the region. Or if there is an extreme growth, let's say in Africa, let's say, Nigeria grows their membership over 600, then they can say, we need a seat because geographically we're further down, the other countries, in Africa. So we'd like to have our own seat, and because we are representing over 600, 700 members, we need a seat on our own. And this can be a discussion of the board. So the platform is open for the changes. Please keep in mind, this is a plan that allows with the bylaws certain details to be changed, and Vice President Juan is going to explain to you which are those, changes and, ironing that can be done in some of, the points that is brought out. And one of this is the regional representation. These can be changed in time based on needs. How many times did we change our statutes and bylaws throughout the 88 years? Many times. And it is very normal for organizations to update, make the changes based on the current structure, technology, membership, stakeholders' requests. That's the normal path. And that's what we are doing here right now too. I do think this map represents a fair representation of all regions. And again, as I said, we need to put out an incentive out there for the countries. We cannot punish the countries who have been doing the work. India has been up to over 1,500 members. Kudos to them because they're doing the work. There are other countries. And then also, I do not agree with the term small countries. There's no small country. Every country is a big country. Yes, they might have less SKAL members, but geographical, if we're talking about the geographical size, again, this is not a reason for a country not to grow their SKAL members. I mean, look into Switzerland. They are, half the size, of Germany, but they have as many as, SKALings as Germany. So it is possible, and they even had more. They were up, to 800s, and they're down to 600s. But it is possible. So, and this map, I do think that it represents fairly, and it is putting out an incentive, the plan out to the SKALings, because we are a membership organization and we can only exist as long as we have members, and our parameters can only be membership numbers. Please keep in mind our statutes as well that talks about the non-discriminatory factor as well. Are there any other questions, Jean-Francois?
Okay, since I opened the floor, I will go quickly through the comments that we had. Just a second, because it keeps coming in. Since we opened the floor, sorry, it's because it's coming. Great plan. We should approve this without delay, Sanjay. Avit, since India is almost double the number of members than average number of members most of a region, shouldn't we have 2 directors? I think you did explain that in your last comment.
I do see a question from Wolfgang. I'd like to take on that if you allow me.
Yes,
Jean-Francois, it is related to the topic that we just went on. Wolfgang Hoffman says, what is the fact basis for allowing Turkey with 692 members and own director, but Germany with 699? Well, as far as I know, and it is in the minutes of the committees, but if Vice President Hudia would like to step in and explain that, but it is actually, to me, it's only logical that within Europe, Germany gets a seat with their over 669 members. But this has been a request that has been made by the area committee representation on the governance committee, that they would like to keep, as I explained in my presentation, that the board of the area committee of Europe would like to decide who will get the seats, rather than going based on the parameters of membership and geographical structure. So that has been explained. That is why it is. And Turkey, with its location, Europe has refused Turkey to join SKAL Europe many times, if you know that. And it is, according to United Nations, UNWTO, Turkey is a part of Europe, but, in SKAL Europe did not want to take Europe, so Turkey is left out, is not a part of Asia, or, so that is why Turkey exists there with over 700 members right now as an individual region there. Any other questions? Yes,
I'm keeping in the comments. I'm going to go really fast through them. Karen Anderson, well done, and thank you for all the excellent work. Karen Anderson, President. Georgina Razzo, great presentation, Madam President. Thank you, everyone, for their dedicated hard work. Phil Gutt, it's possible, please, to show the slide of the structure governance from President down. Thank you. I think you just did. My name is Anemola Sanya, President SKAL Lagos. Where does Africa stand in all of this new structure? I noticed one, if not wrong, that only one position is South Africa. Is this about membership, number of uniqueness of region? I think you just answered with your comments on countries. As there's been a forecast for the financial impact of this change, and now will flow to the members. There is a forecast of financial in the presentation that will be distributed. Thank you, Patina. Wolfgang, the governance structure is important for the existing members, but has nothing to do with attracting new members.
Let me comment on that. It does have everything to attract new members. For us, in this changing trajectory globally, we are out of the pandemic. The entire industry is disrupted, and everyone is talking about rebuilding the industry. Now, as SKAL International, for us to come out, to make a call to everyone in the industry, not only the younger generation, but everyone, to make a call and invite them to join SKAL International, we need to put out a difference there. We need to say, yes, SKAL International has revised, is now adapting to the changing environment. We have a new governance. Now we need you. Come and join us. Let's make this organization bigger together. We need new leaders. Come join us. Let's take this organization together, work together. So for us to make a call like that, for me to go out, and that's actually the plan that we would like to do, we need to offer something different. If we don't offer something different, what is the call out we're going to make? We've all been asking the question, what do we offer? What is the difference? How are we changing? This is the answer. This is the answer in a compact version. It is actually, it's a version that is also adding, you know, the committees that created this year, you know, what an excitement it created, feeling included. How it excited our members, how they went out and started to recruit more members, how they now have a content and holding conversations with the people in the industry, talking about, you know, this the sustainability projects that the committees are doing, the training and education committee, you know, the PR and visibility we're, you know, working on. So this is all giving us a content for us to go out and recruit members, and this plan is proposing this to be permanent. And this is an invitation, an announcement to the entire globe saying that this organization is adapting to the change, is adapting to the expectations of the current world as well as the future generations. So that's why it is very relevant to go out and recruit new members. It is a very helpful tool if we can pass this change. Thank you, Jean-François.
Madam President, I'm continuing. Carrie, many thanks for your presentation, Madam President. Eric Etienne, congratulations, Madam President. This plan is clear. SKAL has a future. If we don't agree with it, we will need to discuss anymore. We don't need to discuss anymore, as the whole organization will explode. Sergio, I'm sorry, Sergio, your comment is in Spanish. I'm going to be passed on this one. Sanjay, new member, are always done at club levels. And this is where the change in governance is not applicable to clubs. Franz, FETER, co-chair, governance committee. What is the membership in the smallest region and the biggest? Do they equal somehow? Anurag Gupta, thank you, Madam President, for acknowledging India. Charles Fabian, thank you for your recognizing India, Madam President. Francisco Cuevas, great proposal and congratulations, SKAL from 665 Manzio Camina. Peter, sorry, I'm just Peter Jarokai from Hungary. We fully respect the hard work of the governance committee over several agree that there are not been enough time and change given to clubs, to members to discuss this and that. Holly Powers, SKAL USA, new governance plans provides more leaders and committees to do the work to grow the organization. Wolfgang, what is the fact basis for allowing Turkey? Okay, that answer, Madam President, just answered that. Carlos, excellent, Madam President. Bert, well done and agree 100%. Congrats, Carlos from Peru. Jorge, sorry, Jorge, you're gonna have to put that in for French. François Lang, do we need area committees? That's a question. Monique Daram, appreciate President SKAL Burchin mentioning India for growth and membership, even during COVID times. François Lang congratulating India on their job. Yorzad Acosta, area, 5 countries with less than 15 members. Their minimum is not 15. By the way, younger members are welcome independent of their age. One big club is better than two small with the name of Young SKAL. Hubert, I'm just going to put your name here. Thanks for recognizing Germany, Madam President. Avit Chaturvedi, please don't gloss over my question. Don't gloss, don't, sorry. I'm not sure what that means. Good observation, SKAL Wolfgang Hoffman, I agree with you. Monique Daram. Pedro, we agree, Madam President. We are agree, Madam President. We need a new SKAL. Congratulations, SKAL Mexico. Nicole Martin in France. Paris 84, Provence 34, and Côte d'Azur 205. I'm not sure what your question is, Nicole. Yes, I believe we definitely need to attract new younger members, and therefore we need to change our image and structure. Franz, the position of Turkey was never brought up during my presidency. SKAL area Europe, I think.
I see a question that I would like to take on, if you don't mind, while you review the rest of the questions. Is
yes,
coming from France Catheter, what is the membership in smallest region and the biggest? Do they equal somehow? Well, as you know, France, as you guys made the plan, the map, I'd like to put that up, and I'd like to give an explanation here. So, of course, you know, the smallest and the highest does not equalize. Obviously, the larger membership country, you know, with 1,500 members does have a regional representation where, you know, let's say Tres Fronteras, for example, currently has 11 members in Region 4. However, it's a very important point in this plan. Still, a country with the smallest number of SKAL members still gets a chance to put someone on the executive board on the seat to vote. How is that? And Vice President Juan Ceda is going to explain it, but this is how it happens. So let's say, for example, from Africa this year, Julie Debali continues, you know, and the transition as, you know, the director. And then next year, when the election is up, Kenya is not going to be able to put a representation on the executive board. What will happen is, you know, once the serving time is finished, then another country in the region has to come up with a new representation. So this gives the opportunity for the countries to put out representation on the executive board in the sequence, in the turns that they will take. So everyone will get a representation, you know, to have there. I think this is a very important and fair, you know, way of allowing every country to get a representation. In the 88 years, did we have a president from Nigeria? Did we know? Why didn't we have it? We don't know. You know, did we have a president from India? No, we did not have it. Why? So there are some interesting stats when you look into, you know, the presidential and executive board representations. Is it fair? If you ask me, my personal opinion, this is it's not, but, you know, and I just only talk based on the facts and numbers that I look into it. You can make your own opinion, but to me, a fair representation is a platform where everyone has the opportunity, whether they take it or not. They may not take it, they might leave it, but there is an opportunity for those to put out a representation. Also, countries with the highest number of members in those group regions, it doesn't mean that they will always be able to put up a candidate because, you know, this transition is required in the statutes and bylaws. And this is something that the statutes committee added on top of the governance plan that was proposed. But also this gives an opportunity for, let's say in Region 4, Peru has such young leaders coming up. Well, the leaders have to convince the other countries in that region that they can represent that region. Even if they have the smallest number of SKAL members, if they have a good leader that, you know, promises to represent the region in the best possible way, it depends on their leadership skills. They still have a way to move up and be on the executive board. So that's the difference of this plan, I think very distinctive, that is offering the opportunity for everyone represented in the SKAL world to have the opportunity to have a seat on the executive board where they can have a real decision-making role. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. I think I'm going to wrap up because comments keep coming in right now, so I'm not going to read them as
so I
fast as
think,
they're
you know,
coming in.
I think it might
just
be
to
a good.
summarize, I will just summarize. There's a lot of conversations about the financial impact, and I'm seeing those comments as well on the YouTube. I think it's clearly explained in the PowerPoint that will be distributed after this meeting. Because if we go into those details of the question about the financials, but on YouTube,
I'd like to make a comment on that, if you will allow me. May I make a comment just real quick on that?
Please.
So there is, yes, with the explained structure, there will be anywhere from 16,000 to 30,000 euros additional cost for SKAL International if this plan passes, for the executive board travel. However, keep in mind that, the countries will be saving, the countries who have been sending international council representation, they will be saving those fees that they have, those finances that they have been investing for their international council to travel, and they can use that for their own membership growth. And please keep in mind, while we've been, in the past 7 years, we have been having an average cost of 20,000 euros in legal fees and not budgeted. Only last year, we had 35,000 euros as in the legal fees. So if the question is, can the organization cover this additional expense? Yes, the organization can cover it, because when we solve the governance crisis, and we're not going to have any legal fees, happening as well. So please keep that in mind. And when we have a plan that attracts new members, and those countries who don't send representation international council, they save that fees, those dues, they can use them for organizing, recruitment events and investing it for recruiting more members, investing it in a way to grow their clubs or their national committees. So that would be my answer on the finances. Now, if you will allow me, Jean-François, if there is no other specific question, the comments are there and everyone can read them here. I know you were reading them for the YouTube observers, but if it is okay, I would like to now proceed, giving the floor to Vice President Juan Stetta, so he can now talk about the technical portion of, how will this plan look like on the statutes and how it is proposed to be implemented. So I'd like to invite Juan Stetta on the floor. Is there anything else, Jean-François, specific questions?
No, I would like to say that the comments actually superpose themselves. What we're reading on YouTube and what we're reading here on the platform are pretty much the same. So it's the same conversations going on the both platforms. So the level of engagement is the same. So, and the answers are the same. So I think we're good. If anybody has something really, really, really specific, please identify it in your comment that you really want me to read this, and I will. Thank you.
Okay. Vice President Juan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. Good day, presidents and members of the NUR. Good day to you also, auditors, counselors, delegates, colleagues, and fellow executive board members. In my character of Vice President of Statutes and Bylaws, it is my duty to present to you the proposed changes to our statutes resulting from the work done by the Governance Committee and the Statutes and Bylaws Committee, which work I truly commend. These amendments, together with the required bylaw amendments, have been sent to you all by the Secretary General on June 9th and also on July 1st. I will present each one of the statutes amendments, and while doing so, I will also make some reference to the corresponding bylaws amendments. For practical purposes, I kindly ask you to hold your questions until the end, as there might be some doubts that could be clarified during my presentation. I would also like to mention at this time that the fact that we're here talking about statutes amendments is because by law, we are required to present them to the Spanish government. And statutes are really the permanent part of our structure. However, bylaws are flexible. And by that, I mean, we can change them, let me put it bluntly, from one day to the other. I mean, whereby statutes, it's a whole procedure that has to follow. So when reading and going through the statutes, as I mentioned, these are the core parts of the organization, which is presented to the Spanish government, has to be authorized by them. But again, many of the things that Virgin has mentioned are bylaws, and that can be changed. For example, what she mentioned about the number of regions or the number of directors that could be there. Okay, so this can be done without any major problem. So in total, there are 12 statutory amendments. The first one being really a general statement. So let's begin. Esther, can you start sharing the amendments? Thank you. Okay, as I mentioned a moment ago, this first one is a general comment, and following what President Berchin mentioned, the whole idea is to reorganize, modernize the leadership on the international level to ensure representation for all regions in the SKAL world. It's important to mention that clubs, national and area committees are not affected by this reorganization, and that in the statutes, as well as in the bylaws, any reference made to the executive committee should be considered to be the executive board. Any reference made to the CEO or to the chief operating officer should be considered to be the general secretariat. And any reference to the ISC president, the ISC councillors, or the councillors should be removed due to this new elevated structure where we're merging the international consular with the executive committee to create an executive board. I think that at the end, I will kindly ask President Berchin and also to comment on the change between the chief operating officer title to the name of Secretary General, as we had in the past for, I don't know, 70 years. Okay, if we continue with the next slide. Okay, here we're talking, well, it's really Article 2 regarding vision, mission, objectives, principles, and structure. If we go to Section 3, obviously, as we have mentioned, the reference to the International Council is being removed. Also in the letter C, the name of the Secretary General has been changed. And I will go into Section D. It says, SKAL International Executive Board. The Executive Board is the governing body of SKAL International and oversees the management of SKAL by the General Secretariat. It comprises 13 elected directors who are accountable to the General Assembly. The President of SKAL International represents the association, and the immediate past President and the Secretary General shall be non-voting members of the Executive Board. Yes, I know that President Berchin has referred to this, but since this is a statute amendment, I have to go and read and go through it. Now, in this particular case, I would like to mention that, okay, each one of the directors, the Vice President and the President have one vote. And very important is that the decisions taken by the Executive Board shall require an absolute majority of 50% plus one of the valid votes casted. In the event there is a tie, a second vote will be taken. And if the tie persists, the President will have a casting vote. Again, this is a bylaw amendment, but it's very important to notice that we're trying to be more democratic to give the Executive Board members, if there is a tie, a reconsideration, and then, well, finally, if there is not, the President will have this casting vote. If we can continue, again, in the next slide, please, Esther. Perfect. Okay, Article 5, it makes reference to the International SKAL Council. As mentioned, that has to be removed at all. And then Article 6, it makes reference to the composition and term of office of the Executive Board. And I will go and read through them. Letter A, the SKAL International Executive Board shall comprise 13 elected directors, the immediate past President, and the Secretary General. All directors of the Executive Board shall have been elected individually by the vote of the clubs in the region, announced at the General Assembly, and shall cover the following positions: President, Vice President, and 11 directors. The Secretary General is a non-elected member of the Executive Board. Let me make some reference here to the bylaws regarding the qualifications of the candidates for directors. Candidates for director as officers of SKAL International must be active or life members in good standing in their clubs. The Executive Board may not have more than one office occupied by members of the same region, except in the case of the region of the immediate past president, where there will be another board member, given the fact that the immediate past president is a non-voting member of the board. All candidates for office duly nominated under the provisions of the statutes will be presented to the delegates, as mentioned by our president, at candidates' virtual forums, which will be organized by the SKAL International in each region in advance of elections. Candidates, as minimum qualifications, must have been a member of SKAL for at least the 3 years immediately preceding his or her nomination, and have served as officers at the club, national, and/or area committee level. They must be fluent in one of the 3 official languages of SKAL International and be nominated and endorsed either by his or her club or the national and area committee if one exists. Now, regarding nomination of candidates for director, any club having fulfilled its financial and other responsibilities to SKAL International may nominate amongst its active or life members one candidate to become candidate for director of their country. If nominated, such nomination shall be made by the country by forwarding to the Secretary General 60 days prior to the annual General Assembly of the year of the election to take place. The candidates for elections for directors will come from the countries in each of the 13 regions. Nevertheless, there might be countries within a region that could decide not to nominate a candidate for director. Elections for directors will be held within 2 weeks prior to the General Assembly. These elections will also be organized by the Secretariat in each region via election body or similar, and will allow clubs within each region a 48-hour window for voting, 36 for a second ballot. And here, let me reiterate what President Berchin has mentioned. That is that regions with only one country will have to nominate at least 2 candidates. The ballot for director will be specific to the candidates for each country in a given region, to be voted only by the clubs within that region. Now, also, to allow candidates in a region with multiple countries the opportunity to serve on the SKAL International Executive Board, a country cannot nominate another candidate if the current director for its region belongs to that country and has served 2 consecutive 2-year terms, unless there is no other candidate from a different country. This has been addressed by President Berchin, but I wanted just to reiterate it. Something that has been mentioned as well is that the candidates obtaining a simple majority, most votes, are not declared elected. The candidate receiving the second highest number of votes will be the deputy director for the region. Should an elected director, for any reason, leave the board, the deputy director of the region will assume the position. If the deputy cannot assume the position, an election within the region will be called within 45 days of the vacancy, with nominations within 30 days. As has been mentioned, but I will stress it, directors will be elected for a term of 2 years with the possibility of 1 additional term of 2 years by the countries, if they are elected by the countries in the regions. Okay, and I'll go to letter B in the bottom part of the screen that says the maximum term of office for a member of the SKAL International Executive Board shall be 4 years, as mentioned, unless elected to vice president and subsequently assuming the presidency. So that means that it's the prior slide is the slide number 3 at the bottom part. Yes, thank you. So what happens is if a director is elected vice president in his 4th year in office, well, then he has to remain to take care of the vice presidency and then the presidency. So he can be there for a 6-year term. Okay. Now, let me go into a bit of detail regarding what's going to happen with the election of the vice president. Okay. As President Berchin has mentioned it, but I want to stress it, is candidates will be nominated by directors of for a 1-year term and will assume the presidency the following year. The candidates for vice president must be from among the 11 presently serving directors. Remember, the 12th one is the president and the 13th one is the vice president. So amongst the other 11 directors, the new vice president will be elected. Vice president is elected by members by all clubs. That's as it occurs today with the president. Now, a minimum of 2 candidates will be nominated by the board. However, every director may apply to be elected even if not nominated by the board. Okay, so I think it's let me just clarify a bit. From the 11 members, they within themselves will decide who the 2 candidates for vice president will be. But if there is a director that says, no, I want to also run, he has all the possibility to do so. Okay. Now, the vice president is elected with a minimum of 50% plus 1 of the votes cast. Candidates receiving the second highest vote will be deputy vice president. The deputy vice president will assume the position of vice president should that person be unable to fulfill their term. If the deputy is elevated to the vice president's position, after the end of the term will become the next president. If the deputy vice president remains deputy for the whole year without becoming vice president, then the next year he or she may run again for the vice president position. A vice president cannot represent, and let me stress this, a vice president cannot represent a region that has had a SKAL president in the past 3 years. I know that President Berchin mentioned that, but I wanted just to reiterate it. Okay. Now, an additional thing that it's in the bylaws that I would like to comment is that to enhance the way assemblies should take place.
I apologize, Vice President Juan. Esther, could you please continue with the screen? We're still remaining on the same slide.
Yeah, I'm still there.
Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm.
I'm still in slide number 3. Just to enhance the way assemblies should take place so as to make them more participative. They can be in person, virtually, or in hybrid format. That's an addition that we have made to the bylaws. Okay. Now we continue with slide number 4, please. Okay, in this particular case, could be reiterated because we're talking, let me read the statute amendment to appoint, if deemed necessary, until the next General Assembly, a replacement for any executive board office which should fall vacant, except that of the president when the vice president will assume the position of president without using the title. In the case of vacancy in the position of vice president, the deputy vice president shall assume the position of the president and in turn that of president. Okay, this might be reiterative, but it has to be quoted here in the statutes. What I had to make reference a moment ago is bylaws. But remember, the statutes are the permanent document and that it's registered with Spain. So that had to be included here, even though, as I mentioned, it might sound reiterative, but that other things I just mentioned are in the bylaws. Article 6 is really going to changes in the name of the executive board. and the removal from the SKAL International Council. So I will read it. It says to approve the formation, modification, suspension, expulsion, or termination of any SKAL body except the Executive Board or the General Assembly. That's one of the powers of the Executive Board. Going to slide number 5. Again, we're still talking about the powers of the Executive Board. In this part, we're only making the changes that have been mentioned. And I'll go to the Article 6, where it says quorum in the lower part of your screen. And it says the quorum at all Executive Board meetings is a minimum of 8 members. Now, this is important because currently the minimum is 4 out of the 6. And in this case, it will be 8 out of the 13 members. Remember that, yes, we have 15 persons because you have the immediate past president and you have the Secretary General. But the ones that have the right to vote are the 13 directors, or if I may include there, the Vice President and the President. It's 11 plus 2, and that's why we're talking about 8 members, okay? So in this case, President Birching has mentioned that the Executive Board will be meeting during the World Congress and also on a mid-year meeting, which is something that normally occurs. And there will be other 8 Zoom meetings during the year. If we can continue to the next slide, Esther, please. Okay, here we're talking about the annual congresses and General Assembly of clubs. And in section 2 in particular, where we have the extraordinary General Assemblies, we have included a new subsection. And this subsection is to clarify how and when an extraordinary General Assembly can be called by clubs. Okay, and it says extraordinary General Assemblies must also be summoned within a period of 3 months of a request being made by 1/3 of the member clubs. The request for this extraordinary general meeting must be made by 1/3 of the members within 45 days of the first such request having been received by the Secretariat. The time period of 3 months will begin once it is certified that 1/3 of the member clubs have made such a request. Okay. What we're doing here is just to put a time frame. If the clubs wants to have a General Assembly, well, that's what nowadays occurs, but it's just an open situation where we don't know when it's going to end, how many months we have to give, or how many weeks, or how many days. We have to wait until the extraordinary General Assembly can be called. Next slide, Esther. Thank you. Okay, here we're talking about the finance and auditors. And let's just go to the lower part of this amendment, where it says the senior auditor will be responsible to confirm and ratify that a quorum has been reached. That's during the assemblies, which Rafael Millan has done. And it also says that internal auditors and the deputy auditor cannot hold any other office in the SKAL International at all level. In the past, it was just the internal auditors, but here it had been agreed and suggested that also the deputy auditor should not hold office at the other SKAL level. And let me stop a bit here just to comment about the auditors. Let me go to the nomination and election of internal SKAL auditors. Nomination for the auditor must be made by the member clubs and endorsed either by the national or area committee in writing to the General Secretariat not later than 60 days of the date of the General Assembly. The nomination shall be accompanied by a full professional and SKAL curriculum vitae which should include details of previous accounting experience. The names of the candidates nominated will be advised to the Executive Board and member clubs, as well as to the national and area committees by the General Secretariat. In terms of the elections, 2 internal auditors and 1 deputy auditor shall be elected on the same time and in the same ballot as those for directors, vice president, and members de NUR. The internal auditors will be elected to 2-year terms in alternative years, and the deputy shall be elected to a 1-year term only. And this is because if the next year, if the deputy auditor wants to run for auditor, he will have the chance to do so by being only 1 year. Now, there is, as a result of this new structure, new governance, there has to be also a new article, which is a transition article in the bylaws. And it says, internal auditors starting 2023 are required to review the finances and operations of SKAL International quarterly in real time. Hence, they will also be required to complete and present to the 2023 Annual General Assembly the results of their 2022 audit. I know the present version already mentioned that audits will take place in real time now in the future, but I have to clarify that next year's auditors will have a double job because they will have to review the finances and the operation for 2023, but also for this year. So that's a transition article. In the last part, it says statute amendments. And I will just, it's a change, it's only clubs, national and area committee, and the executive board can propose amendments to the statutes. We're just going back to this merger between the ISC and the executive committee to form the executive board. Okay, and the last slide, please. Again, these are the normal changes. We're merging the International Council. We're changing the name of the executive committee to executive board. So that will be the last amendment. And the last thing I would like to say is that our future is now. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice President Juan. At this time, there has been some questions posted in the chat box. Jean-Francois, can we have the questions that have been posted that are addressed to Vice President Juan Seta and the points that he has presented, please?
Actually, Madam President, there was a lot of conversation on explaining some of the comments Vice President was making. There are some citations of some different approaches. Quite a lot, actually. People are very passionate and commenting a lot. So I will start by the one I've noted that actually make maybe for a response. So Wolfgang, all directors shall be elected by clubs in their region, all directors. And he's asking not only regional directors. So that is maybe something that needs to be explained.
Let me clarify that. And I think that Julia Lantas as liaison between the executive committee and the governance committee can also assist me in this. But what occurs is that a region will elect its director because they know the person. I mean, it is not that opening up to the whole world. We're saying, okay, the region will select its director from the people they know and the people that are within their region or country. Okay, Julia.
Yes, if I may add to that one, thank you. That is a fundamental change in this plan that I think is very important, because so far we have been electing directors on the worldwide level without really knowing them. And when we are talking about being democratic, about being bottom-up representation, we thought at the governance committee, this was unanimously also agreed, that only the clubs in that country or in that region know their best leaders. So they should choose their prominent best leaders and send it to the executive. This way we have, these people are identified in their regions much better. And I think this is one of the great positive points of this plan.
Yeah.
So
there's
every
a comment
region should
added
choose,
to
yeah.
that. Wolfgang says, but we have 2 sets of directors, regional ones and worldwide. No, we don't have 2 sets of directors, Wolfgang. Please look back onto the PowerPoint, the organizational chart, which you will have. There is only regional directors at the table sitting together at the executive board. There is no regional or worldwide ones, no 2 sets. There's only 1 set. And there was a question that was addressed by Susanna Sari, former international president, in regards to the change of the general secretary, CEO to general secretary. I think you already expressed that, Juan. Is there any other comments you'd like to make on that?
I didn't make any comment. I left it to the end. I don't know if you want to go through it, or Julia.
Well, CEO is a title that was introduced some 4 or 5 years ago, but it was introduced with different conditions. It was introduced to have a professional leader, a professional person at the secretariat to look after sponsorships and to grow membership. But then when we have given to this person more the administrative issues, then obviously we are now using the CEO as a secretary general. And not only that, also when we are looking to the other world organizations like United Nations, the World Travel Organization, etc., they all have a secretary general. So, and CEO sounds more in a professional company, in a private company have CEOs. So it was, again, it was decided that the secretary general would fit better in that context.
Yeah, I think
that's also what she's doing.
And that's also a recommendation that we had from the outside consultant firm that was hired to assist the governance committee. Grant Thornton.
May I, Mr. President?
Yeah, Daniela has a comment as well, our CEO. Daniela, yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, greeting to all from Spain. Thank you. I would like to make it clear that I have not been consulted either by the contracted consultant firm or by the governance committee on this issue. And the second thing is I have expressed on several occasions that the current position without a vote and with almost not decision-making power is not that of a CEO. But this does not mean that I recommend it going back to the situation of having a general secretary. This is my comment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Daniela. Yes, this has been brought up actually in our initial conversation in Little Rock at the meeting where you did express that you do not feel that you have the full power, that you should be assigned additional power, on the executive board, that you function like a general secretariat and that your title should be changed to general secretariat. And at that point, we said that we need to have a separate discussion. The CEO is a paid position, is a staff of SKAL International. So the deciding body of anything in the structure, the statutes belongs to the executive committee and the membership. So that is why the governance committee probably did not ask for your opinion, considering it as a paid position. And in the organizations, of course, as we always say, every 10 years, 20 years, organizations look back, they do make a decision, move on with the decision, and then they look into the return of investment of that decision that has been made and the changes in the industry, changes in the technology, changes in expectations and feedback they get from their stakeholders. So as SKAL International, we're doing the same thing. And this is what the governance committee has done too. So it is a very normal process. Changes can happen. A decision can be made 7 years ago, 10 years ago, and then we can retract and, move on with a different decision. It is very normal. And this is a democratic organization. All these discussions are very normal and healthy. Now, moving forward.
Sorry, Burçin, can I add one more thing? Because in the comments, something is very disturbing, I find, and I think it needs to be addressed. We have a person, Santimo Gavera, unfortunately I don't know him personally, but he keeps on writing that there's no reason to put questions, everything is fixed in a dictatorial way and using power to give gifts to friends. I mean, in this plan, is there anything like that? I mean, people have to understand that there's no such thing. On the contrary, it is being spread. Instead of now 6 persons deciding it's all regions and everything, I'm not going to go over. And moreover, our dear friend Tito, with whom we work together at the governance committee, he says, President decides everything. Well, today also, President decides everything symbolically, but like in the committee that we work so far, President didn't make a single decision without having the consent of the board. And I'm sure with this plan also, when nominating the co-chairs, when nominating clarifying the portfolios, it will always be in accordance, in agreement with the board members. I don't know if President Burcin, you would like to add something to that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
This is never in a dictatorial way.
Correct. Yeah. So in this executive board, every decision has been very transparent. For the first time in SKAL in history, all executive board meeting minutes have been posted online on the SKAL International website. Every decision that this executive committee is taking has been taken with a vote. Well, right now we're 6 people, and this plan is proposing to have more people, more participation to take a decision. So if you disagree that 6 people should not hold the decision, the right to decide what decisions this organization should take moving forward or in daily operations, then you should be pro in expanding this executive board of directors as proposed in this plan, because it is proposing to expanding it to 15 people in total, which means instead of having 12 eyes, then you will have 30 eyes in the operational aspects, in the finances, everything that is happening for the organization. And I think this makes much more sense. So at this point,
no, Madam President, please.
Yes,
I would like to add something. In the amendments that have been approved, and they have been publicized in the SKAL page, and have been sent to all presidents of clubs, secretaries, there was one amendment that had been agreed, that should the president take a decision not known to the members of the executive board, any member can question that decision, and during an executive board meeting, it can be taken back.
Exactly.
And that's an amendment that has already been published.
Exactly.
To all the membership.
Thank you very much for the reminder. Yes, this year we have taken that decision. Anyone on the executive committee as well, in addition to what Vice President Juan explained, that if President proceeds with a decision without getting a board approval, board vote, as it has been experienced in previous years, then in this case, any member of the executive board has the right to call on the president, call a meeting, and retract the decision. Also, it is also added on the current code of conduct, and this is to prove that this board of directors, executive board is fully transparent. We have also added an item on the code of conduct in the governance current model that in case of a violation of the code of conduct that is currently existing by any of the executive board members, they will be invited for a resignation. So this is also very clear in the current governance model that is accepted at the beginning of this year in our first meeting. And this is to put this executive board accountable for the actions taking and the role that they are taking on the executive board. So with that, I would like to go back to Jean-François. Jean-François, any further?
Madam President,
yes.
I'm just going to summarize really quickly some of the comments we've been having and some of information also circulating on the YouTube feed. So there is still a lot of questioning about all the financial issues about this. So Member John Stein from Orlando actually asked me if I could read his comment, and I think it does summarize a bit of the financial issues. On behalf of SKAL Orlando, why would there be a concern with the nominal increase of the SKAL International budget, where the national area committees will save tremendous amounts of money by not having to pay for the ISC travel? It should also be noted that not one previously questioned the exorbitant spending on the digital transformation that is significantly higher than what membership approved and still doesn't function properly. I also have a comment here from Mark Singh, who was one of the leaders of the Statutes Committee. I think Mark is making a comment that I haven't seen yet, so I'm reading it. Mark saying a lot of studies was done on the governance of similar organizations worldwide. This governance experience was taken into account when formulating the plan. And
there's a comment from Werner Glunken. He says that this statute is complicated. We need to make the statute simple, stupid, and reduce all this stuff. And we completely agree with you. And actually, that was the main approach that this governance committee has taken on, as well as the statutes committee. And if you have noticed, yeah, the screen was pretty crowded, but the crowd was actually coming from the old statutes. If you remember, there were so many items that were crossed over that statutes, the existing one, and it's simplified. So yes, it needs to be simplified. We need to focus on, doing business among friends and leading the industry with our projects and, and growing our membership. Yes, Jean-François, back to you.
Just maybe final, just as a last comment before we move on, there is some conversations going on about the Secretary General / CEO position. People are commenting on where we should go with this. So I'm just saying that there is some questions out there, but I think there is stuff that will need to be addressed on that position as well.
Okay.
Before we proceed, I've had received a comment questioning in the bylaws that were recommended, and that was a governance committee proposal, was that the committee, the governance and statutes and bylaws committee, be led by the past president. And I've received a number of comments saying that that should be reanalyzed, and well, that's something it can be done. I mean, if the conclusion is that the past president shouldn't lead this committee, it's a bylaw change, and as I mentioned in the beginning, it is flexible. We can delete that part without any problem.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much, Vice President Juan, for bringing that up. I'd like to remind everyone that if this was a physical General Assembly, everyone would be taking the floor to ask their questions and limited, and and usually it's members are not allowed for doing repetition. But this is the great thing with Zoom. Everyone has the freedom to express their opinions and thoughts in writing here. And it's recorded and it's available for everyone to read later on. So I think this is a great platform. So at this point, I think we need to wrap up. If there are any, I do see repetition, always same people making comments on the chat box. Is there anything I'm missing, Jean-François, that
last but not least, I would just like to summarize some of the comments we have on the time frame. They've been discussed a lot. So you have people saying that we're going too fast, and you have people saying that we've been doing this for 15 years. What is too fast exactly? So you have a lot of questions on the time schedule for all this transformation, but people are answering themselves.
Just to answer that, just to summarize again, there is a logical explanation. Beyond, these conversations have been continuing for the past 10, 15 years and no action being taken. And beyond the fact that the discussion on this and that we're going to dig into this and come to a conclusion has been announced last year as of November. The fact is, the reason why the date is picked is just because the plan is proposing the election process for the new board to start 60 days in advance. And if we want this plan to take, place in 2023, this is the time based on the proposal that needs to be done. If we wait for Croatia, this plan will not be effective in 2023. I repeat, because there is a time frame that the Spanish government has to approve this. And at that point, it will be in the hands of the 2023 board to decide on how to proceed with this. So for that reason, and there's a fact that in the current statutes and bylaws, there is no continuity responsibility given to the current boards. Although in this governance plan, we try to add that, current open projects needs to be followed and recommendation for future boards. There is nothing in the statutes that enforces the executive board members to continue when a project has been started by the previous boards. So this has been a question that I have been receiving by many of the members, because they are concerned that what they're expressing is every year a new president comes and scratches everything else, and and there's a new agenda. So for that reason, with multiple reasons explained, but most logically is because this plan is proposing 60 days in advance elections prior to the upcoming annual General Assembly. That is why this date is picked. Now, I would like to come to a conclusion with our meeting. I see, Julia, your hand is up. I'd like to wrap it up, please. Yes.
Okay, just very quickly. I have seen among the comments or questions one comment which is important to be clarified. It is Charles Fabian who says, so henceforth India will not come under Asia region. If it is confirmed, then we need to pay the Asian region fees. Please acknowledge. We have said that area committees, national committees, and clubs are not affected by this plan. So as a country, if you are part of Asian area, you are part of Asian area still. If you don't want to be, it's your decision. I suppose you can get out, but you don't need to, because area committees have a different setup and it has nothing to do with this plan. Right, Mr. President Burçin? I think that needs to be clarified.
That is correct. Yes, again, emphasize there is no change with the clubs. There is no change with the national committees. There is no change with the area committees proposed. That's period. That's very clear in the plan. Yeah, thank you very much for pointing that out. Jean-Francois, any final comments or questions that you received that is different than what we have so far? A specific question that you think needs to be addressed? And I do see always repetitive, people, but, anybody that has not asked a question and you see a new question here, if we can prioritize that, if there is any.
Again, the time frame is always coming up, but I think you did answer that question on why is that this way. No, I think we have pretty much everything done.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Well, dear colleagues, delegates, now we are coming to the end of the Extraordinary General Assembly. I'd like to invite you all to have a solution mindset. Many of us get stuck in the past because of our need for certainty, and certainty is one of the 6 basic human needs and is fundamentally about survival. Moving on from the past also means stepping into the unknown future. It means having the courage to let go of what is familiar, even if it's negative, and being vulnerable enough to embrace and learn from what's ahead. The tagline that I referred to in my World SKAL Day message of remnants, renew, reunite is so apt for us now as we acknowledge what was, have the opportunity to renew our mindset and work together for a better future. The outward mindset is being able to see yourself as a part of a bigger whole. It is incorporating your own thoughts, your feelings, and your goals into a widespread understanding that others are actually more like you than they are different. When we can see this similarity, we can empathize and look forward to change. Inclusion offers the opportunity to create a space where everyone is invited into the conversation and appreciated for what they contribute. Invite people and rather than call them out, encourage change rather than demand, and allow people to be heard so that you can build trust in your organization. And this has been my goal and intention for my presidential year. We need to decide now where we are standing as the winds of change blow. Are we going to build walls or are we going to build windmills? If we do not adapt to rapid and expected changes in the world and future, we will not succeed. Instead of SKAL, growing and going from good, great, done, we all must ensure that we rather go from good, great to growing. The choice is yours. The choice is ours. Now, I would like to remind everyone, the voting delegates, that you will be receiving a ballot to cast your vote from election body. The voting period is set as 36 hours, starting Saturday, today, July 9th, 2022 at 8 p.m. Madrid time. Closing will be Monday, July 11th at 8 a.m. Madrid time. Approval of the amendments will require a positive vote of 2/3 majority. Abstentions shall be considered as void and shall not be considered in calculating a majority. Now, I would like to close the SKAL International Extraordinary General Assembly. I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day or evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much.